Hello, everyone, and welcome to Up Supercast, the only podcast on the internet where every single member of the podcast got coal in their stocking. I'm your host, Will, and joining me today, Brandon.
Yay.
Noah.
I guess I can make diamonds?
Saf.
Is Sarah want me to go in blackface?
Ills.
Wait, did you say me?
Ills, please. Please.
Noah took my thing. I was gonna say it's the prequel to Diamonds, but okay.
And Moozamil. Get us out of this intro as quickly as possible. How are we doing this week, boys?
Let's move on.
Man.
Please, God.
Man, how was our Christmases? Please, someone give me an answer.
Great. It was fantastic. It was
Bless
a lot
you,
of fun.
Brandon.
I didn't die.
You know, I got to
Take
spend
that
time
as
with
you
my
will.
fam, eat some good food.
Yeah,
Times were
dude.
good, man.
Yeah, man. At my grandma's house, we don't have any service. I forgot what it was like to be detached from the outside world and not check Discord every 5 minutes. So that was a neat reminder. but yeah, it was a nice holiday. Always is. Almost always is. But boys, we're here. This is gonna be, I think, the last official Jump Up Supercast of the year. How exciting!
Yeah, we uploaded literally on the last day of the year.
Wow.
Hot damn.
So let's take a little moment, as is tradition, whatever the expectation, games, people talk about game of the year, right? And we talked about it a little bit off here, and I feel like our collective game of the year probably is not a hard thing to guess. If anyone could venture a thought, what would it be?
Smash. Duh.
Oh, you did it. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
Smash.
something like, I don't know, like Astro Bot?
Spider-Man. Also that. But no, we talked about Smash for a full hour a couple weeks ago, so we didn't, all the things that we said about Smash are true. We love it. It's one of the best playing Smash games. The roster's great, tons of positive things to say. But,
It is our official game of the year. Stamp
Official-
it down. Put it on the
stamp it
box,
down.
Nintendo. Jump Up
Put it-
Supercast game of the year.
on the Wikipedia entry. That will be the first thing that you see about Smash Ultimate. But, we're all individual people. We've all played different games that resonate with us in different ways. And we sort of want to take the time to also talk about those. Give a little spotlight, highlight, wherever you want to say. Just cast a light on some of the games that came out this year. And there's no particular order of this. I guess we'll go in the order that I introduced you at the intro. How about that? So, Brandon, you're first up, and we're all going to try to do at least two or three games, right? You gave me the first one. One that I know that you were playing, but you never had the chance to talk about much on the podcast.
Say this right at the beginning. 2018 for me, good year, but nothing, because I guess we were spoiled in 2017, it just felt like underwhelming. Although, in retrospect, it is still a good year, solid year for gaming.
Mm-hmm.
But 2017 for me was just like, holy shit, man.
Yeah.
Everything is amazing.
Yeah.
So I was a little disappointed, but it was still good. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, though, a game I feel like nobody talked about in 2018. It just kind of got overshadowed by everything else. And yeah, I don't know, man. It went on sale real quick. I guess the sales weren't as much as Square Enix had hoped.
Sure.
I don't know. Came out, I guess, at a bad time because I think it came out around Red Dead.
Wait, didn't they have the same problem with the first Tomb Raider? Like, having, crazy expectations for it?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I mean, Square Enix, this is like, I don't want to dwell on it too much on this episode, but, Square Enix, Tomb Raider is one of their most mismanaged franchises, and that's saying something because it's Square Enix.
Holy shit.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think all the games in this series, this is the third one, and they're all, I think critically acclaimed from what I can understand.
Generally well regarded, for sure, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, everybody liked them, and I just felt like nobody really talks about these games.
Yeah.
I think the first one a little bit, but then after that, the sequel, and then this one, they kind of just flew under the radar, but they were all very solid games. I really liked it. This one in particular, it goes into, it sheds a light on a side of Laura that you normally don't see, where she has to face more consequences of what, the things that she does. When she destroys a tomb In turn, it's just she's accidentally destroys an entire town,
Sure.
killing tons of people in the process. Innocent people living in that town. You see children die, like it's crazy. There's all these dead bodies floating in the water, and you did this because you stole this treasure.
Yeah.
And the bad guys even make you feel bad about it. And it's really cool to see her fight with those personal demons of what am I doing the right thing?
Mm-hmm.
Facing these consequences. And it's the most emotional one so far. And it was really fun to play. The story was cool. The set pieces were crazy. There's one set piece in particular that I just absolutely loved where Laura thought somebody close to her was dead and she was very mad about it. And there's just this really cool scene where she walks out of the river real slow, comes up on a guy who's getting all scared, and she just breaks this dude's neck and just goes on a rampage. Like, I don't know if you can die in this set piece, but it is just crazy. She's running through this oil refinery, blowing the shit out of everything, and just killing everybody, and it's crazy. It's really fun. I liked it.
Yeah.
So if you get a chance, I would say play the entire series because they're fun games, and you probably get them off pretty cheap at this point.
It's true.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to play the second one and the third one. But yeah, what you were saying was interesting that she has to deal with the consequences of her actions, because I was playing the Uncharted games over the Christmas break or whatever, and you never see Nathan Drake really do that. So it's interesting that they did that with Laura.
Yeah,
and
and these games are very similar to
Uncharted.
If you've
that's
ever
why I
played
bring
them.
it up. Yeah.
And I think like you sort of mentioned, I think it's neat that also that the story sort of came into the forefront for this trilogy, which was a weird thing that you didn't get the vibe from the first game. But as it went on, it really it became a thing with its own unique identity in my brain that's removed from the old Tomb Raider games, which is, I think, a good thing, because those old Tomb Raider games, while huge and obviously were very important for early 3D games, kind of are like a dumb 90s action movie, and this feels like a different approach to telling the story.
Yeah, like a more nuanced approach.
Yeah. Which is fun.
Sure.
But that's neat. You also, this is a game that I play a little bit with you. I think Ills and Noah played even more. You played Overcooked 2.
Yeah. Overcooked 2 is really fun too. I loved Overcooked 1, so I was very excited to play this game. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. They added a lot of new stuff, a lot of new interesting things to the already tried and true mechanic of working together and getting really pissed off at your friends. At a restaurant. Yeah, we all played this. I think we all played this together. Me, with Ills and Noah and you, Will. Yeah, we all played this. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, there was a lot of really cool things that they added. I liked, the new recipes and the new level designs definitely varied from the first game.
Yeah, it's even though it was the same concept and same gameplay, it's still felt very different from the first one, in a sense.
Yeah, they definitely added a lot of new stuff, a lot of crazy different stuff with you're on hot air balloons and they're moving around and the kitchen's constantly turning. And mine carts that are shifting around where all the ingredients and stuff are, and you can toss stuff now. I don't think that was in the first one.
It was not. No, that's new.
It wasn't?
No.
Oh shit.
Now this one you have to throw stuff around.
Yeah.
I just remember that one with the platforms moving around that we all had to yeah, that one was
constantly tossing them into the cutting board.
Yeah. And every person had their own corner basically.
Yeah.
That one was cool.
And it's cool because, like you sort of said, it's just the same basic conceit as the first game, 4-player. You're sharing in the kitchen trying to reach the score, but they add it's that thing that happens with a good puzzle game, which I guess Overcooked kind of is, where every new thing is just another wrinkle that stacks on top of each other, to where eventually there's 7 different things you're keeping track of, and it's super hard, but whenever you get the flow going and you're all doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're doing well, it feels great. It feels like a genuine collaboration.
Yeah.
Which is fun.
Yeah, it's always that's I think the most fun that you have playing that game is just trying to figure out what's the best way to approach this.
Yeah.
and once you figure it out, you feel really there's a lot of satisfaction.
And like everybody moving together, you know, like everybody hitting the right pace, the right beats.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To get everything done perfectly.
When you know you're doing good, when everybody's just being kind of quiet and just being like, "Hey, can you pass this over here?" All right.
Yeah.
And then you're a well-oiled machine at that point, because when you're not, it's getting loud. Everybody's
chaos.
like, "What are you doing?" It's shouting at each other.
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly things can fall apart in Overcooked, but that's like
so
part of the
fucking
fun.
quickly.
Yeah.
And then the last game you got, Brandon, is one that was fraught. This is, I would say, a fraught video game that has like a feel-good ending. Walking Dead: The Final Season.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it on the podcast before in past episodes. You know, definitely, we talked about it multiple times. But this game, we didn't think it was going to get an end to it. So it's really exciting, and it's going to continue in 2019. So it's technically, you know, throughout 2 years, the way they do it with the episodes. But the first episode was released this year. Well, I can't remember what their original release schedule was, if they were supposed to be done by this year.
I don't know for
Can't
sure.
remember. Yeah. But either way, you know, the first episode and the second episode were released this year. You know, the whole thing with Telltale and the studio closing down and, you know, being upset because, you know, we were going to get the conclusion to this story. It's a story that anybody who's been playing has just become attached to, even if I don't think personally, in my opinion, nothing has topped the first season, but it's still been, you know, pretty good in, you know, I just love the characters. I love the setting. Walking Dead is a cool universe.
Yeah.
And I was really bummed out, really bummed out about not being able to finish this. And now I'm really happy about it because I really liked the first, you know, 2 episodes. I really liked them. They were good. They were setting up for some crazy stuff that's going to be happening. Yeah. And I'm just really happy about it. So I felt like I had to mention that. And it's something that I think, another one that not a lot of people I feel like are talking about now. Yeah. The Walking Dead kind of lost a lot of its steam. And which is shown by sales too, which is why they shut down. Yeah. You know, I saw the charts of the first season and then the rest of their games. It was like abysmal.
Yeah, there's a huge drop off.
You know, yeah. So it's a shame that people, you know, I know there's a cult following behind it. And, you know, there's a lot of people still excited about it, but hopefully with enough press and this game being good, it'll pick back up. And it's good times ahead. Yeah,
I mean, in some ways, it kind of like we had 2 games this year that sort of have this wrapping up of a character, right? Because you've had Clementine for almost, is it 4 or 5 seasons now, right? Like, you know,
this is the 4th and final season.
So it's like, but you know, it's been like 2013 or whatever when the first one was out, maybe even more. So like, it's been at least 5 years with this character, and like another game that I wanted to shout out, but I'm not going to, like Yakuza 6. Like these, you know, like it's very rare in these video games where you get these long stories with these characters, where then they get a genuine conclusion and a wrap up. And like, I mean, obviously we're still in the middle of the final season, but having that go away guts so much of what came before it. So it's nice to have that finality to this character.
Definitely, because we went from Clementine as like little kid, you know, 10 or so, you know, in the first season, to now she's probably 18 years old. Sure. I'm not 100% sure.
She's in adulthood, you know, like she's now taking care of kids herself, and like that's, you know, this beautiful little like book ending from where she started to where she ended.
Exactly. Super cool.
So that was, I mean, that'll still keep going into 2019, so that's exciting. But next up, Noah, you're gonna take us super early on in the year. In January, we got Monster Hunter World.
And boy, what an amazing game that was. Still is, too. Like, they added so many good quality of life changes to, like, the main series in general. Because, like, up until then, it's like they only had the 3DS game. Well, they had console games before, like on PlayStation 2, and then on the Wii U was a port for the Wii version. And then they went back to 3DS with Ultimate and 4. And actually, not for Ultimate. 4, Ultimate, and then Generations. But then, like, with this one, there's, like, so many things that they did that just made the game so much better. Like, the monster fights are so, like, a lot more epic. the map, like just the general map, like exploring the map itself is like interesting now. Before it was just like, yeah, there were environments, like different environments, but like it was like, I'm saying like a lot. You go through like multiple portions of the map, like in sections.
Yeah, they're segmented
but
off.
like
right.
in Monster Hunter Worlds, it's just one giant world, like one map.
Yeah.
So you don't have to make stops here and there. Like the monster runs through the forest like seamlessly when you're chasing through it. You don't have to like try and track it down every time. They just vanish out of thin air just by going to another area in the map in the previous games. And there's so many good things to it too.
Yeah.
It was a little lacking in content wise, like a lot less monsters than the previous games, especially with Generations.
Yeah.
But still, all the new monsters and the ones it had was really fun. It didn't last as long as I did with the previous games, again, because of like content, but they are coming in with an expansion soon, which is going to be just as big as the original game.
Which is very cool. Yeah.
And I'm so hyped for that shit.
Didn't the last game like last you 900 hours? Something like that.
Well, when I say last game, I mean like the Monster Hunter World game.
Oh, okay.
But the previous one I played, was it 4?
Yeah.
4?
Probably.
I maxed out the clock.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
I mean, and part of that is Monster Hunter World's interesting because it was just a shift because Monster Hunter had been handheld for so long. Will it work on console, right? And like some of the trade-offs are higher graphical fidelity means it takes more time to make each monster. You know, like having them
True.
go through these environments means you have to take more time to like, you know, animate them going through these different scenarios. But I mean, I think it paid off in just, like you said, and like the monsters themselves now feel more alive than ever before. You know, like
And they actually attack other monsters too when they appear, and those feuds are so good. Seeing freaking Devil Joe just grab what's it, Glavenus? Wasn't that Glavenus? The red dinosaur. I forgot his name already.
Sure. I know you're talking.
The other T-Rex, basically. He just grabbed him in his mouth and just fucking pile drived him into the ground.
Yeah.
It's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Or the Rathalos carrying one of the monsters off and just dropping him off a cliff because it's in its nest.
Yeah.
Like
so
every
good.
time that happened, it was so impressive. You know, just like seeing that sight, it was just cool. You know, seeing these two giant monsters duke it out. Very.
I don't understand how you keep all these monster names in your head along with the Pokemon names.
Oh god, no.
It's hard.
have all this space?
As you saw before, I couldn't remember like the main one they introduced in Worlds because it's so many like older monsters that I know.
Don't insult Pokemon by comparing it to Monster Hunter names, because dear lord, like Capcom. Like, no offense, but some of these, especially when they're so similar, sometimes I don't know, man.
It's, I mean, like, there's enough you that I remember, which is like, you know, we have Rathalos, we did it, we got one in my brain, so you succeeded, really, you know, like, I just need the mascot. But also, I just love, like, how they gave attention to the animations, like, just the Great Sword, I went back and played it recently, and just that charge-up attack with the Great Sword, where your guy just, like, leans further and further, and when they go forward, it's, like, the somersault, like, that's just one of my favorite attacks of the year. I love that so much.
Yeah.
And so just the game feel, I think, is actually really strong.
Like all the different weapons feel great to use, and you feel a lot less restricted than you did in previous games. Like previous games, it was really like the controls felt tight. You know what I mean? It wasn't like not. I guess for new players especially, it would be very awkward because you have to get used to like the timing. Like all the animations, so you know like how fast you can swing when you that would determine when you can attack or not, or how open you'll be left open when you attack to get hit by the monster. Like in Worlds, it was just so much smoother and like faster and better and fun.
Yeah.
Swing, especially with the grappling hook and everything, swing around using the environment to actually trap the monster with the piles of rocks and shit like that. It's so good. It's so much fun.
Super cool. Very early in our podcast, we talked about this, so I like coming back to it at the end of the year. But speaking of other things we talked about on the podcast, on the Game Club specifically, Octopath Traveler.
That one felt like a good throwback to old turn-based RPGs, like JRPGs. That, like, The story was great. I still haven't finished it. I'm on the final chapters. I have 6 more characters to beat. I've already beaten all the chapters for Ophelia and Hunnet. And I'm actually really impressed with some of the stories. Like, some of them are predictable, yeah, and some of them had a rough start, like seemed boring in the beginning. But the ones that were boring in the beginning picked up later on.
Oh yeah,
and they became really good. Like the characters I wasn't interested in the beginning, I was just like, then it was like, oh shit's going down.
And like I haven't beaten it, but just seeing the way the stories, you can kind of piece together where some of them connect. You know, like you see hints here and there of how something connects to another story is kind of fun to kind of figure out.
Yeah, a lot about it.
The battle system is still really fun, and like I thought I was going to be one of those RPGs where it's just like, okay, I'm just grinding now, just mashing A just to get through battles. But no, it's still entertaining to like pull off all the moves and the BP system and all that good stuff. Still really fun, and like the fact that you can switch classes at any time. Like constantly switch up your strategies is really good. Like I started with one strategy with Cyrus as like the thief class as a secondary. Then I moved on to the merchant, which gave him more like access to different spells. So I covered more weaknesses and things like that. And like I got like all these different skills from other classes. Normally you wouldn't be able to equip, but you actually get to keep like support skills. Yeah. So I like did a lot of mix matching there and just like came out with a beast team.
Yeah, it's really fun to mix and match with the classes. It's one of my favorite things about the game.
One of my favorite things about this game is just like both the visuals and the music and how very dynamic the music is. Like I think we've went to quite a bit of extent in the game club episode about like how good the music is, but it bears mentioning here is like there's very high production values to this game that you wouldn't really expect from a game that looks like a 2D RPG.
Yeah.
I really feel sorry for the people that slam this game because they don't like the visuals. They take one look and it's like, oh, what is this freaking 2000 or 1998?
People didn't like the visuals.
Everything's sprite work.
Oh yeah, no, they thought it was they thought it was just a weird cheap.
It's the thing is like $60 for a pixel art game was the thing that people sort of said. But like, when you get into the game itself, there's just so much
stupid.
there. There's so much there to get to.
I guess the game looks more gorgeous than some of the most modern games, so bite me.
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, that's one of the most compelling things about it. Like, the art style is so nice.
Yeah.
Like, that's what drew me in the beginning when I first heard about this game. It looked gorgeous. I was like, oh, I love this art style so much.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just happy that it was also like successful this year. Like sometimes with these weird little side games, not side games, but these like little experiments that you can take with a genre like a JRPG. There's always the concern of like, oh, I hope this finds an audience. And Octopath did. Like a lot of people responded positively to it, and so I'm thankful for that. But yeah. And then another Game Club game, Noah, to wrap it off. Mario Tennis Aces.
Just simple, good, fun. We had some epic matches playing together.
Definitely had some epic matches. Holy shit.
We need to get back into it because Shy Guy recently came out. I'm dying to play as him.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. We got to do it.
There are just some moments in Mario Tennis where you just you're screaming because you're like so invested in winning.
It's the powerful toads, bro. It's the powerful
toads.
Oh God, don't remind me of the nightmares.
I think there was like one night where we played and like we were just doing doubles, and no matter what, it was like whatever team Noah was on was always the winner. And then eventually, me and Ills finally beat him.
Yeah. Fuck that Noah guy.
It took forever though. Like, and that match lasted fucking so long.
But there's that genuine sense of just like, and just gripping your controller really tight. Just like, I really want to win here.
Yeah. And there's like so many moments where it's like you think you get the point where the ball's just going off court so many times. It's like, yeah, we got the point. All of a sudden you pull a fucking special like trick shot. It's like, shit, he's back, fuck.
It's really well done. Yeah. And the additions they made, with the updates, they were really good. Like the extended matches made them longer like the previous games.
Mm-hmm.
I really
like they surprisingly like listen to fans. Like one of the main complaints was like the matches were really short, so they extended like you have the option to play longer now. So I was like, oh, cool,
which is fun. Yeah,
and they actually fucking changed the one gripe I had about this fucking game, where you couldn't take off the trick shot with tapping double X, because that used to screw me so much. They finally added the option to take that off.
So many times I would press that double X, like, because you're used to double tapping all the other buttons, right?
Yeah.
So it's like naturally you do X and then oh god, that was
try to
so
lob it,
irritating.
and then you use the trick shot, and it throws your character off screen. I'm like, fuck.
Definitely happy
I'm
they
so
fixed
happy
that.
they got rid of that.
Definitely happy that there's the option to change that now, because I was just never getting used to
Complained
it.
about it on the Game Club.
I was too scared to use a drop shot or a lob shot, because I was like, I don't want to press X twice.
but yeah, which is like, man, those are fun games to come back to talk about, because it's like sometimes they're not going to end up on a lot of people's top 10 or whatever, but like what crazy Mario Tennis Aces, what a fun game. Happy we got to talk about it again. Let's see. Next up, Ills. You are up and Adam.
Oh, what's up?
And
How's it going?
Originally, you were gonna do Mario Tennis, but you swapped around and you said this name, and I was so happy about it because you remembered it when I would have forgotten. Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon.
Oh yeah. What can I say? It's like a Castlevania clone. It's like the side game to the other Bloodstain that's coming out. What is it? Ritual of the Night?
Ritual of the Night, yeah.
Ritual of the Night, yes.
So this one's like more like a pixel art version of that, or like a side story.
It's a prequel.
Yeah, a prequel. And this one, obviously it's Igarashi doing it, but it pays like homage to the Castlevania, the classic Castlevania series, and feels a lot like Castlevania 3, where you have the swappable characters. Yeah, and it's very, very pretty. It's well done. The boss battles are like pretty intense actually, and very like gorgeous for the art style. Like you wouldn't even expect them to be as intricate as they are, but they are really, really good. And the multiple characters are pretty interesting. Like even the mage guy, it seems like he's useless at first, but if you get the right magic for him, he's actually pretty good. Yeah, it's a very surprising game. Like I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought it would.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like I said, the art style is very nice. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, does anybody else?
Inti Creates. Shout out to Inti Creates. They do good work.
It's crazy because it came up on me fast. Because like if you remember, I think this was a stretch goal, right, for the original Bloodstained Kickstarter.
It was, yeah.
And so it sort of like came out of nowhere. They're like, hey, in 2 weeks, Curse of the Moon's coming out. And I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot that they were making that too, to go with Ritual of the Night. But then when I played it, I was like, man, like I'm this is like fulfilling an itch I didn't even know I was ready for. It was really a fun night just going through this. Because like you said, the pixel art's also incredible. It's super cool.
Yeah. And then playing this game really made me hype for the real game coming out. Like, because this game was really well done. I wasn't expecting it.
Same.
So yeah.
I can't wait. They delayed it so many times. I need it now.
I think if you back the game, you got it for free.
Oh, nice.
I don't know what.
No, you had to pay a certain amount, I think, because I backed the game, but I didn't get it. So
yeah, a certain tier.
I got it for free though, so I was very excited.
Yeah, I also got it for free. It was very nice.
I think you had to go over a
Whoop-dee-doo.
certain amount or something.
Yeah, I did the $60 tier so I could get the physical copy and everything.
Oh, nice. So yeah, that game was cool.
Yeah. Also, another game that you have that is also inspired by an NES series, sort of, but then has twists and turns on it, is the Messenger.
Oh yeah. This game is this is another really sweet like pixel art. Like initially it's very simplistic, the art style, but then as you get on later in the story, it has some twists and turns with some time travel and stuff you're not expecting. But then the art style when you move to the other time, whatever zone or whatever, when you move forward in time, like the art style becomes a lot more dynamic. The backgrounds become a lot more intricate. It's really, really cool. It's a lot like Ninja Gaiden, the Ninja Gaiden series. You play as a ninja moving around the environment or whatever. And it has that classic platforming. It's not as punishing as a Ninja Gaiden game, although it is kind of punishing at the same time. And every time you die, the game kind of like mocks you.
Oh, great.
Fucking annoying.
Yeah,
that guy's annoying as shit. But yeah, the story is really interesting. You know, it's surprising. The boss battles again. It has some really cool boss battles, like that golem guy. I know Muzzy, you played it, right?
Yeah.
And you fight that big golem guy with the 2 arms. That guy was really cool.
Yeah, that was a really cool boss fight. For sure.
And like after you get to a certain point, it becomes like sort of Metroidvania-ish, where you have to go back and solve a little bit of platforming puzzles. But yes, again, really surprising, really sweet, nice indie game that I enjoyed more than I thought I would. Yeah. But as soon as I saw it, I knew I wanted it. It's just very, very pretty.
I'm super happy they had those like little Nindies direct throughout the year.
Yeah.
And this is like the first place I think a lot of people saw The Messenger.
It definitely was for me, yeah.
And it's cool that like it showed off, that looked interesting, and then when it finally came out, there was just this like sort of building conversation around it, of more and more people saying, "Hey, this is actually like really good. Give it a shot."
Yeah, and like the Nindies.
Yeah, I heard a lot.
The Nindies that I saw it in, it was like, oh yeah, this comes out in like 3 days. I was like, all right, yeah, why not? Yeah. I want it.
That's super cool. Yeah. And then the last game on your lineup, Ills, a big boy.
Oh yeah.
Big Dad, maybe. God of War.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the game of the year for, some publications, right? Was this one the Keeleys, right?
It won the Keeleys, yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't played through a lot of it yet. I just started recently. I said earlier in the episode, or earlier this recording, that I played the Uncharted series during, my Christmas break. Well, I finished the last 2 games in that series. Well, 4 in the Lost Legacy, and then I started this game. And it's pretty sweet. I mean, it's really, really pretty, of course. I mean, it's a PS4 game. And I feel like they get back to like some kind of character established, story in this game. Because, I mean, I don't know if you followed the God of War series, but part 1 was always the strongest of the bunch, because in part 1 you actually felt the motivation of Kratos. Like you like all the loss of his family and all that, the stuff that comes through the flashbacks and all that as the story progresses or unfolds to you. You actually get a sense of his motivation and why he's doing all the things he's doing. And that's what made the first game the strongest for me, story-wise. Yeah. But after that, you just kind of lose touch with the character, because, I don't know, like in part 2, it becomes like kind of a conspiracy of the gods and all this bullshit.
Yeah. And he kind of just becomes a rage monster.
Yeah, he just becomes completely one note. But now they've taken that character and they've invested some time into, like, some care into that character, more than just becoming like, a gore machine. He's not just ripping off people's heads. Because by the time of God of War 3, I started feeling bad for all the people he was killing. Like, do I really care that much anymore? But yeah. So in this game, you get more of an emotional bond with Kratos again, because he has something to care about, that it's not just, murdering everyone who ever looked at him the wrong way.
Yeah.
Just, it's nice. It's nice. It's really nice. Because he used to be a father in part 1, before part 1.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you get that emotional bond back. You get him, he's more grounded again.
Yeah. And it's fun because it doesn't like throw away all the previous games where he's a rage monster. The game sort of, that's part of the narrative, is like, hey,
yeah, he's learned to control himself more.
Yeah,
that's
because
part of it.
He has to learn how to be a dad.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
But I also really like, just because a lot of people have talked at length about the story, and deservedly so. It's a well told story, but like also just the axe feels really good in God of War.
It does. Like I said, I'm pretty early on, but yeah, it feels nice.
Just the holding down the R2 to charge up the like big down double hand axe swing, like that I mentioned the Monster Hunter thing earlier. That's my other favorite like attack of the year, is just that, because it's
I really like just throwing the axe. There's something really satisfying about it. I don't know why. It's just
no, it just feels really good to throw it and like bring it back to you. It's pretty sweet. Like you feel like a Jedi, basically.
It's true. But yeah, I mean, and this is a game that's been talked about a lot, but it doesn't mean that it's not worth talking about again. So that was cool. I look forward to hearing more about your thoughts as the game wraps up too. But next up, I guess because I go last normally, I'll just insert myself halfway through. How about that? Sorry, Seth. because I realized in the intro, I guess, whatever. So if it sounds like I'm like reading from a thing, it's because I wrote things down. So my first game that I want to talk about is Celeste, right? And first and foremost, Celeste is an incredible platformer. It's a game that's equal parts demanding and rewarding, and it has a genuine difficulty that never feels really cheap or overly frustrating, because you always know you have the tools to be able to complete each challenge in front of you. It's just a matter of you actually being able to execute it yourselves, right? I could talk about how the game takes the Mega Man approach of like the level design thing, where you have a concept, introduce the concept, test, and then test your mastery of it, but how they integrate it so smoothly into the level that you don't actually notice when you're doing it. I could also mention how much I like the B-sides and how they made me want to break my controller, but how I still had a good time throughout all of them. But I don't want to focus on that, because I want to focus on Celeste's story. Matt Makes Games, the studio that made it, who I learned is actually not just a single guy named Matt, made one game prior to this that I knew of called Towerfall Ascension. And it's a multiplayer game that is competitive, so it doesn't have a ton of space for a story to happen. So it was interesting when Celeste was coming out that I heard people talk about the story, and when I started up the game, I saw dialogue. Moose mentioned it, I think, on the podcast that the game goes places, but he was generous enough not to spoil, and I'm thankful that he didn't, because Celeste unfolds in this beautiful way that surprises you, because it also plays off your expectations of indie games that are like this. Super Meat Boy games of its ilk oftentimes take a comedic approach. So when Celeste reveals itself to be this deeply personal character study about a person dealing with mental illness, self-doubt, and their own self-destructive tendencies, I felt myself not like rooting for the moments where I would beat the level, but relating more to the moments of weakness that Madeline would experience on her climb up the mountain. And so many games take on this wonderful symbolism once you have that. The mountain Celeste itself becomes this thing that isn't just a physical mountain it's climbing, but a journey of self-discovery that Madeline has to go through. And what I like best about the story is how the gameplay itself is incorporated into like how your character is feeling, right? In tons of platformers, there's a level where a character is chasing you have to outmaneuver them, right? But in Celeste, it's not just that. It's the aspects of yourself that you don't want to admit that you're running away from, right? It's the parts of yourself you don't want to show to yourself and others. You know, Celeste has one of my favorite level ups in any video game ever. And it's not because of any stats it gives you or any like jingle that plays, but because how the level up is incorporated into your character's growth and what it represents. Celeste uses the medium of video games to tell a story in a way that I wish more games did. And I'm just super like happy that we live in a time where it can be successful and be up against God of War and Red Dead Redemption at a show like the Keeleys. So I'm just super thankful for that this year.
Yeah, it was great to see that nominated at the Game Awards, you know?
Yeah.
It was really great to experience that story. I mean, when the dark side, and, you know, I don't want to get too into it, but like when you finally like resolve that conflict, really, really cool.
It's such a feel-good moment. And going in, I wasn't expecting any of that, you know? And I had kind of heard, granted, I put it at launch, but like I had kind of heard murmurs that, you know, like there was a story focus in this game or whatever. But it really did just take me for surprise of how much that hit me, how effective it was, and also I want to talk about the level design a little bit.
Sure.
In a lot of ways, it felt like Mario Galaxy as a 2D platformer, you know, in just these weird, crazy ideas that it would come up with, use really well, test your ability, and then scrap it. You know, and then move on to the next thing. And every level was just something new and new and new and new. And it was so very cool to see.
Yeah.
That game, it's just overall a fantastic package. And the soundtrack is very good. Oh, very nice.
Oh, soundtrack is
I wasn't too in love with the hotel level, but you know, the rest of it was really good.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
The hotel level was kind of interesting.
Yeah. So like next up on my list, I have Tetris Effect. And this one is like hard to write about because out of all the games that I played this year, you could probably like be really reductive easily with this one. It's Tetris, but with pretty music and nice visuals is a thing that you'll hear often online. And the thing is factually not necessarily wrong because that's what Tetris Effect is. You're playing Tetris and nice things are happening around you. But when you come to the act of actually like getting to the experience of playing the game, especially in VR where it's taking up all your senses, it doesn't capture how the game can make you feel. And I use the word feel there specifically because there's like no narrative to it. There's no reason that you're being shown all these different boards. There's no like grander connecting pieces to all of Tetris Effect. It just is there, but it works as a game. Like, I'm a guy who's willing to admit when you can get emotional, and that's fine. And Tetris Effect, just through the visuals and through the music and the gameplay in its finale, didn't make me cry, but it made me feel things inside, which is weird for a game of Tetris to do, because I spent like 1,000 hours playing Tetris. And it's hard to like put a finger on exactly why. I mean, it could just be that like Mizuguchi and all of his games have this sort of wide-eyed optimism that kind of resonates with me, where it's just sort of the game without any words is like, hey, the world's neat and worth exploring. Part of why is just it pulls from tons of different cultures, music and just the visuals from a bunch of its different boards in a way that really makes you appreciate just the sheer breadth of stuff that it's pulling from. Or it could just be that like, sometimes when you listen to a really nice piece of music or you witness a really beautiful piece of art, your brain just responds in an unconscious way that you don't quite understand. But it had that effect, and it worked. Either way, it got its hooks into me, and it all works because all at the core of it also is still Tetris. I could go into like even more detail. I don't want to go too long about how, you know, on a fundamental level, it's Tetris. It's what you know, with a couple of new little systems on top of it. But Tetris is like a near perfect game. And so because of that, it's this curious thing that like tons of people like, but no one can really put into words too well. And I think that's a neat thing to have, right? Because sometimes it gives you a chance to reassess, like, oh, like what is it that like I look for out of games? And Tetris Effect, when it first came out and when I did VR, not only justified VR to me, but it also made me just think about games as a whole in a way that I don't get often when I'm playing a game. And so I was super thankful for that this year. It's I don't know if anyone else played it. It's cool.
I don't have a PSVR.
Yeah, it's only. I mean, you can play without it.
But I played. I think we've all played Tetris with you, and we know you're a Tetris boy.
I'm a Tetris man. I do enjoy it. Puyo Puyo Tetris. It's very funny because those two games exist and they're polar opposite things. Where Puyo Puyo is just like, I want to be serious and min-max and like play online, and then Tetris Effect is like, I want to zone out.
Yeah, like if you play this, like I haven't played it in VR, but I know people that have. And when you play it in VR, like it's so very immersive. It's like it's so very engaging that you kind of lose yourself in just this simple game, which is a surprising thing for this.
Yeah, which I think like in like Rez and in Child of Eden, which are like the other games from the same sort of studio, that has that same trait to it, and Tetris Effect brings it forward. But you know, unlike Rez, where it's like a decent shooter, Tetris is Tetris. You know, and that's part of what makes it neat. And I guess my last one is Dragon Quest XI. Because like when people talk a lot about video games, they give a lot of reasons why they enjoy playing them, but often you'll hear people say it's a sense of escapism. You know, you can escape from the world and the things around you, but I can't do that a whole lot with video games when I'm like in an anxious time. And I'm an anxious person by nature, so oftentimes when I play a game, I'll just sit there and think about like what I should be doing instead, what I have to do tomorrow, or what happened today, or just about how tired I am, right? But with Dragon Quest XI, that never happens. It's a series that, and I use this word sparingly, is timeless. For its design, it's aggressively building off the base of the very first game that came out almost 30 years ago. And almost every JRPG is built off the back of as well, right? And Dragon Quest XI doesn't aim to revolutionize or like change your perception of what a video game can be, but it's a game that can only exist when a studio and a team have had decades to master what it is that makes their game enjoyable to play. And it's like the warmest blanket I've been able to wrap myself in all year in terms of just like coming home at the end of the day, that you can look forward to coming home and just having a game that every time you sit down you can feel some level of just progression. It could be story progression, it could just be leveling up a few times and getting a new spell or a new technique to use the next time you turn the game on. The game has a great party that they really focus on making engaging and enjoyable, and a story that, while it looks like a basic hero's journey at the beginning, has enough twists and turns that it can keep you engaged. And it focuses on building a world so that when they put out this magic and this prophecy and all these different big words at you, you have characters and a environment that you already are invested in, so all of those events matter more. It's the first ever HD Dragon Quest mainline game that's not an MMO, and it's the first one that ever came out in the West. And they use the visuals not to like go for realism, because it's using obviously Akira Toriyama's art style, but it uses it to focus on, and stick with me here, a level of verisimilitudinous. Word of the day calendar, which means it basically means
that word. Come on, guy.
It's basically just it means essentially that it's a consistent world, right? That you never get pulled out of it. It's not realistic, but it's consistent. And that's what's wonderful about it, is that when you walk around and you see these little men with hoods and a large mallet and a giant rabbit with a unicorn horn, you don't think, oh, this is stupid. You think, oh, this is wonderful, because they built a world where these creatures can live. Towns are lovingly rendered, and they have their own influences from real-world cultures that make it feel like a genuine globe-trotting adventure. You never feel like you're repeating anything. And the stories are episodic enough that you can feel like you're progressing in each town. You're helping each place you go to. Like, overall, 2018 has been a year where there's been tons of stuff, like, just in the world, scares, and you go onto the news and things can feel like everything's burning to the ground, and like things can get hard in our own personal lives at any time. So to have a piece of entertainment that can like truly feel like it's a salve, right? A thing that can just help heal for a little bit is all the more valuable in these times. And so, like it's a game that you play to get ready to go to bed, and it's like a nice fireplace you sit beside, and it's just a video game that like at the end of the day I can't help but just feel nothing but warm things in my heart for.
That's beautiful, man. Makes me want to play Dragon Quest XI.
Wow, that was a lot of words.
I started writing and I made like a full page, which was a mistake. There you go, though. But yeah, those are my three, and they're cool. I know that like not a lot of people play Tetris or Dragon Quest, which is why I went longer on them. But hopefully, if that sounds of any appeal to you, then maybe go out there. It's on PC. Next up, SAF.
Also coming to Nintendo Switch in 2019.
Also, like they get shown off.
Is that the full version coming to Switch?
Yeah, dude.
Enhanced version
Alright,
or something
cool.
like that.
The Japanese version's enhanced. I don't know how the English one will end up, but yeah. So we'll may talk about that later as they give us more news on the Switch version. But Saf, you're up, and first you have a game right here, big boy game, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, and he is a big boy. It's that game is a tremendously fun game. It's so chock full of fan service and so chock full of respect to the actual material, the source material of this game. Which is great. I love swinging around that place. Like, it's very easy to do, it's very easy to get into, and it's just when you...
It's called New York City.
Like, that place. I mean, Marvel's New York City.
That's true.
But basically, I love swinging around that, and I love finding out secret references to other movies and other Marvel properties that you go around in that you find while you're exploring that city. It's enjoyable. The story itself is kind of unique because it kind of takes from the perspective of Peter Parker being a mentor. Like once you get deeper into it, and once you discover other characters like Miles Morales, and as well as seeing his relationship with Dr. Octavius, it's really really good, and it's quite deep in terms of character development, character moments. It's a very, very fun game. And if you're a Spider-Man fan, then you are definitely missing out if you're not actually playing this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a good year for Spider-Man, huh?
Been a good year for Spider-Man.
I was thinking about
that.
I mean, except for a certain part where he didn't feel very good. Yeah.
That was good for me.
That was Spider-Man, like the game. It's like a roller coaster, right? Like it's that weird thing where just like they're constantly. I almost respect the game design a lot because there's nothing that's like in the game that's too crazy in depth, but there's just enough everywhere, and it's all properly spaced out in this world that you're constantly being pulled in enough directions that like you're always doing something that's just different enough to keep you engaged, and the traversal's really fun. Just the swinging is very fun.
It is incredibly fun. And you're right, they do keep you engaged, and they do try and pace the story as well to allow you time to actually do other things and other side missions in the city, which is quite commendable of them. There are some issues like the Taskmaster challenges that they have as one of those things that you do. It's quite difficult. Surprisingly difficult compared to the rest of the game, and it's kind of sucky because some of the stuff that you get is locked behind you completing certain number of taskmaster quests.
Mm-hmm. Tokens you get for completing
basically.
them.
And it's like if you suck at those challenges, then you won't get some of the other cool little costumes, which is bad. But you can get over it. It's not a main part of the story, and it's not necessarily you can beat them. But other than that, it's.
I was when I was playing through it, I thought I want to get the platinum, and so I just assumed a trophy will be max out all of the Taskmaster challenges. So I maxed them all out, waited for the trophy to pop. Did not pop. Realized there is not a trophy assigned to this. Should have looked that up because I wasted like 2 hours getting the like gold rank on all of them. So little word to the wise on that one. But yeah, Spider-Man's still a cool video game. Obviously huge. Like come on, you did hotcakes. And the other game, Saf, another PS4 exclusive. You freaking Sony pony. Astrobot.
Oh, I love Astrobot. Like this is. I always wanted to talk about it when I was playing it during the podcast, but we never got around to talking about this game. And someone made a description that I was always thinking about, which I never got a chance to say, but they're so right, that Astrobot is like the most Nintendo non-Nintendo game that has been made, because it uses VR and the features of the VR really incredibly well. Like, when you jump into that world, you're actually jumping into an entire new world, and you're using the features, like you're moving your head up, forwards and backwards, looking behind corners just to see what's happening over there, just to see where your character's going around. And it's a situation where it's like, you're remember Mario 64, where you're controlling Mario, and the perspective is from Lakitu. You're supposed to be Lakitu and control the camera and stuff like that. It's the same kind of style, where it's like you're controlling this little bot, and there's always cuts to you, or there's always like things to show that you're a giant bot just following this little guy and controlling him, which is
you're a physical being in the world, which is cool.
Yeah, basically, and it's a nice cool moment being that weird avatar just looking out for that little guy. And the fucking Astrobot itself, the little fucking guy, is so adorable. There's this one moment where it's like you're going through a cave and you see him walk through the path. And when you look at him, he just, as he's walking across the path, he just waves at you just to finish that level. And it's just so neat. They didn't have to do it, but they did it because it's like, why wouldn't you? Like, it's one of those weird, it feels like a Nintendo moment. It's like, why don't we just do it? Why don't he just have that little cute little moment that
it's the attention to detail. You can feel love in it, right? And that's part of the fun. It's also just a game that, like, we don't get a lot of games like this from Sony anymore. Like, there was a while with like Ape Escape and a bunch of other games like that, right? And this sort of, like, it feels like you get that for a brief moment again of like, oh, like, look at this fun, just this game where they just took a shot with this technology and made a cool experience.
Oh yeah,
I almost picked this one for my list. Actually, I was gonna pick it, but then Saf was like, "I want to talk about it." I was like, "Okay, that frees me up to talk about something else." But no, otherwise, no. Astrobot, like this game blew me away. And Saf had mentioned he kind of knew I would want to talk about it because it really is like a Nintendo game. It's so brilliant. It's so colorful, so bright. The controls are so tight, and I love how it uses VR in a way. You cannot play this game on a flat screen. You just can't. It does not work. You need to be able to move around your head, kind of contort your body to like look over the edge. I adore this game. I really, really do. Sometimes it's like an amusement park in the levels that it has. What you're going through in World, I think World 2 or 3, you're literally on like this essentially roller coaster, takes you underwater, and you can see dolphins swimming in there, and because you're in VR, you're seeing these dolphins life size just swimming next to you. It is so immersive, there's nothing like it. It's one of those games that, like, Will talked about Tetris Effect earlier, and I think this is just like a thing with VR. You need to play it. You need to play it so you can understand what the hell I'm talking about. Because there really is the immersion you get from that world is like nothing else. And seeing the scale of things, I love to see the scale of things.
Oh my God.
I don't know why. I'm just so fascinated by it. Astrobot is such a tiny little man. He is a tiny, tiny little man. He's adorable. I love him. He's my friend.
You mentioned, you mentioned scale of things, and I just remember the boss fight where they're giant creatures, and you can feel that they're giant creatures.
Oh my God! Like they are massive, bigger than anything you've ever seen in your real life. You know, and because it's VR, like it's like it is to scale what they would be. It is insane.
I know.
Just oh my gosh, this is a PSVR system seller to me. Like, it's why I bought the system, and I don't regret it for a second, and I would recommend it to everyone, because it is, this is like the VR game. It is the VR game.
This is what Mario 64 was to Nintendo 64, effectively.
Damn, son.
If you wanna look at like the trailers and you're like, this looks like there's the monkey boss is the one they show in the trailers a lot, right? And you're like, oh, this thing looks a little cheesy, it's like a little, whatever. Once again, it's that thing where like I got to that and I was like, oh, I get it. Like there's like sometimes there's just things that you only get when you're playing it, and like Moose said, Astrobot is that. And
in general, it's just a very solid platformer. It feels good to play. It has fun challenges in it. It's the environments are so great. I cannot gush more about this game. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So speaking of Moose, who just spoke, it's now your turn. We're gonna start with
that has 3 games.
No, because he did Octopath.
No, I didn't. That was Noah.
Okay.
That was me.
What was your third, Saf? Did you have a
Shadow
third?
of Colossus.
Oh, frick, dude. On my thing, it was Octopath. Okay, Saf, talk to me about Shadow of Colossus, dude.
Oh, man. We've had like years and years of talking about what makes Shadow of the Colossus great.
Try to refrain from spoilers if you can, because I still really want to play that game.
What? Yeah. Oh my god, get to it right now.
I'll just time out.
No, I won't spoil anything.
We can talk about it without
We're not going to spoil
Yeah, we're not going to spoil it.
It's on the PS4, so go play it, Noah.
Yeah, no, go play it. Everything that you've heard about Shadow of the Colossus is still true. Like, it's still a grand game. It's still... it's still very grandiose in its scale and its storytelling and its puzzles in regards to fighting those colossi or colossuses. What is it? I can't remember. Colossi, yeah. Yeah, so it's still grand in regards to that. But the remake itself, in particular, it's so fantastic. It is so beautifully done. Like, this is an old PS2 game that they've managed to rebuild from the ground up. And it looks beautiful. The detail on it, like staying true to what the original game was, while also upgrading it and making it feel more like a PS4 type game. It looks like it belongs on a PS4, and I'm glad it actually is available for it to play, so that you can enjoy the beauty more of it.
Yeah. It's very cool that Blue Point got to make this, because they did a lot of remasters, including remastering Shadow of Colossus on the PS3, But being able to do a full-scale remake, with brand new assets and for it to turn out so well, good for Blue Point. Very, very,
The game is still impressive in 2018, which is I think like the biggest thing that you worry
100%.
about, right? Like when you still look at these colossi, they're still huge, they're still impressive. When you're climbing and the music is swelling, it still feels like you are taking down this these giant creatures that feel like they are living beings, and that is it's good to know that it still works in 2018. It's still in a lot of ways is as impressive as when you first played it.
Yeah.
Or if you're playing it for the first time, like Noah may. But yeah. So then now, sorry, Saf, I hated to stomp on you there.
That's all right.
But it is now time for Muzamil. We're gonna start.
Now it's my turn.
We're gonna start with the most contentious one, I think.
Last and least.
We'll see. We'll start with the most contentious one probably. But you liked Pokemon Let's Go.
I did. I liked Pokemon Let's Go a lot, and so this is a game. To be honest, I didn't want to talk about. for a long time because I thought it's a very controversial game. But let me relate it to the game that it replaced, Astrobot, in that the sheer scale, seeing the Pokemon to scale, and you may ask, like, Muzzy, why are you so obsessed with this? There's just something so cool and so immersive about seeing these things, you know? And I think because of the power of the Nintendo Switch, you know, for the first time, Game Freak was really able to make these Pokemon feel real. And make them feel like a living part of this world, which will kind of describe the essence in Dragon Quest, right? Like, this world feels fully realized and everything makes sense in it. And that's what I feel about Pokemon Let's Go. I feel that these Pokemon live in this environment. This is a real world here. And it's not just, you know, the Pokemon in the overworld. It's also, you know, being able to ride them, seeing my character being able to bond with my Arcanine. That's my Arcanine that I'm on, you know? That's my Charizard that I'm flying through the skies with. I'm riding on my Gyarados. It's just I feel so close to my Pokemon, and I think that's the core conceit of Pokemon is you bond with your Pokemon. You bond with they're your friends, you know? And Let's Go does that in spades. I really feel such a close attachment to them by the end of the game. And you feel this with every Pokemon game, but even more so here. I feel so strongly bonded to them. I adore them, you know?
Yeah.
And seeing them in the overworld, you know, kind of just walk around, it's so neat. It's so cool, you know? Yeah. And, you know, it does deviate from the traditional formula. And to a lot of people, they don't like it. And that's fine. That's a fair complaint, you know. Luckily, the game we want's coming next year, you know. But, you know, in the meantime, this was a fun diversion. It allowed Game Freak to kind of experiment, go wild. And, you know, in that specific aspect, they absolutely nailed it. I really hope that's a feature they carry forward. I hope that Pokemon roaming in the overworld is something that they keep going forward because for immersion, it is just absolutely fantastic, you know?
Yeah, that's one of the things with it that I would be okay with. The catching mechanic, they can throw that.
Yeah, I mean, and the catching
bring
mechanic,
the battle
you know,
mechanics and the catching mechanics back and keep everything else Let's Go introduced, and that's be perfect.
Okay.
There was some cool things. There was some cool things in that game to be had.
But I mean, see, and the reason why it so strongly resonated with me though is those reasons, you know.
Yeah.
And even stuff like the catching mechanic though, like I get that you don't like it. I get that a lot of people don't like it. And to be fair, by the end of the game, I found myself hating it too. But
yeah,
I think.
See, I thought I was gonna hate it. I played it and was like, "Oh, this is kind of neat." And then, like halfway through the game, I was like, "I hate it." I hate it.
But I think it's. At its core, though, I do respect Game Freak for willing to change something as core to the series as even catching Pokemon. It sure didn't maybe work out necessarily, but the fact that they're willing to try, I commend them for that.
And I don't think it was a total failure. I
still believe at its core, I don't care what you guys say, I think throwing the Pokeball is fun. I do think that's fun.
But because it's funny because you mentioned this news though, because I want to touch on this really fast before we move on. Like I'm a man who loves to use the word context a lot, right? Like I love a game when it has context, when there's reasons for things to be there. You hate it. You hate when I bring it up. The one series that you are as dumb as me about this is Pokemon. You demand there to be this logic to stuff, and so this is why that resonates with you. That's it.
And
you know,
that is Let's Go does the in space, and I think to be fair, I think the catching mechanic actually adds to that, right? Because I am actually throwing the Pokeball, you know?
Sure. Yeah, it's like novel and cute for like,
I mean, okay.
But then when you realize that, oh, you're supposed to like get these stupid chains and the Pokemon can run at any time randomly. And,
okay,
you know,
I don't know. We weren't negative on the other games.
We weren't. It was to be fair, we weren't. But
do we have to be? We weren't negative on the other 15 games that we talked about.
I mean, I think it's important to make clear why Let's Go resonates with you, right? Like why you picked it for this thing. You know, and like you know, and that aspect of Pokemon because it's that aspect that is I think part of what makes Pokemon excel.
I
at what
felt
it
the
is.
most immersed here that I have in 20 years playing the series. You
Well, I
know?
don't know about that.
What?
I can't help but be very hard on it because I love the series.
Sure, I mean, I'm not saying this, but I'm just saying this is not the time.
It's my favorite. I'm sorry, it's my favorite series
but-
ever. I get very passionate.
I think with the graphical, with the jump in power, Game Freak has used it very well, and I'm so with this as a base, I'm very excited to see where they go forward from here.
Yeah, I mean, part of it, yeah, we'll move on, but I think part of it is also just like, hey, Pokemon's going to have to be a slightly different thing being a console game moving forward. I think this was an experiment, and everything won't be brought forward with it, but you know, there's stuff to give and take, and I think that's fine to look at the game. But you have two other things. Both of them are expansions, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is purely an expansion, Octo expansion.
Octo expansion. So this is a single player DLC for Splatoon 2. Where you play as the Octolings. You lost your memory. Going in. So before this, we've had two examples of Splatoon single player before, and I think the first time it was novel, good, but you know, at the end of the day, novel. You know, nothing special. You were still there for the multiplayer. In the second game, it was the same thing, so it kind of lost its charm, and you're just like, I just kind of want to get this over with, or you know what? Maybe I'm just not gonna play it at all. I'm just here for the goddamn multiplayer. You know?
Sure.
So playing these two hero modes from the first two games, I was like, it's single player. I don't know how much you can do with Splatoon single player. And Octo Expansion proved that holy shit, you can do amazing things with Splatoon single player. The mechanics actually lend itself really well to a very solidly designed single player experience. It's funny because I think recently you could actually go as far back as the Wii. I think Nintendo's been criticized lately for their games are too easy. Octo Expansion is fucking hard. If you, going into this, you pay that $20 DLC. I hope you're a Splatoon veteran because these challenges are hard. They really test you to all your ability. Everything about. But it's not just the challenge. It's not just about how smartly designed these things are. The aesthetic of it, the underground, the weird. I don't even know how to describe how Will maybe help me out how the levels themselves look. But
I mean, it's all like it's steeped in hip hop culture. It's steeped in like subway culture and just underground, right? Like physically, you are underground, and that permeates all of the game. You know,
it permeates. Yeah,
like 80s.
Yeah, and very 80s. You know, you can see that in the visuals, in the music. You know, everything about it is
great.
Just And some of them get really weird. Like you'll see GameCubes just floating in the sky. I don't know what that's all about.
Best console. That's why.
And then
False. No, it's true.
and then just story-wise, I thought it was a really cute story. I thought it was very cool to see Nintendo go so deep into the lore of one of their games. You know, you don't see that from Nintendo very often. And they do go deep into the lore.
that's weird.
Yeah, you damn dirty ape.
It's wild in there. I don't want to spoil it, but it gets crazy.
Splatoon 2 Octo Expansion, the final minute of the final boss. I won't say more than that. The final minute of the final boss is one of my favorite things of the year. I love it.
Oh my god, yes.
it's-
And you know, we were talking about context earlier. The way that puts certain things into context is baby.
Whew. Very good.
Chef kiss.
That's a good game. That's a good, like, it's $20 as an expansion, but, you know, I spent more hours in it than I spent in some $60 games this year.
Yeah, and like, you know, running through the main, 'cause there's many paths you could take, right? And running through the main story doesn't take too long, but there's 80 levels to complete altogether. It takes a fair bit of time, I think, to get through all of them, right?
Yeah.
And if you like Splatoon, highly recommend this. They did amazing.
Okay. That's exciting. And your final game, the final thing that we're going to talk about on this podcast, probably, Xenoblade Torna, the Golden Country. I forget the subtitle. Xenoblade Torna expansion came out this year. And you loved it.
So, this is a game that only I have touched out of the group here, which is honestly surprising for a group that loves Xenoblade so much.
That's the thing. We love Xenoblade, but Xenoblade 2 is...
Alright,
We love Xenoblade.
You bet it. Shut up.
Well, I don't want to start the Xenoblade 2 arguments here, but I do think this game takes what's strong about Xenoblade 2, removes a lot of the fluff and things you may hate about Xenoblade 2, and turns it into a really short, compact, sweet experience that is just a good time. You feel good. Except for at the end where you feel really bad. But I don't know, so they changed the battle system a little bit to make it a little bit more action oriented. The main gimmick of the game is you swap between the driver and the blade, so you actually get to play as both characters, which is a lot of fun. The dynamic of switching between driver and blade and nailing when you have to do what is super intuitive, super fun. The way they do it is, in fighting games where you have like that red health that you could recover. Mm-hmm. So when you swap your driver or your blade, you recover that red health. So you are incentivized to constantly switching. Everyone has their own unique playstyle. There's 3 playable characters, each with 2 blades each, and you kind of just so unlike the original game where you have 100 million party members that you get at random, these are set characters, which works both better for gameplay wise because you always have everything you need, and just story wise, it's nice to just have those set characters, right? That's always a nice thing. The music is fantastic, even better than the original. The side quests, and this is actually Torna's biggest strength, but also if you hate this aspect of games, you'll hate it the most about Torna, and that's the side quests. So there's a lot of side quests in this game, and actually very involved and evolving side quests, where, for example, you'll do a side quest with certain characters, and later on, you'll unlock another story involving those same characters. And they keep evolving and evolving, and you get this sense of community. You get this sense of, you know all the people that live on this continent. You know them intimately and deeply. You care for them. You care for what's going to happen to them. The thing is, though, these side quests are mandatory.
No. So why are they side quests?
So not side quests. They're quests.
Well, the reason they're side quests is because you don't have to. None of the specific side quests are mandatory, but to progress in certain parts of the story, you have to reach a certain community level, and to reach a certain community level, you got to do side quests.
So it's not necessarily you have to do all the side quests; it's you have to do a certain number to pass.
There's nowhere where there's actually way more than you ever need.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That'll be
a nightmare for completionists.
They do make sure that so when they gate you off, you never have enough to get there. It'll be like level 2 community required. There's no way you'll be at level 2. But by the time I got there, I did enough side quests because I just enjoyed doing them, I only had to do like 2 or 3 and then I could move on. So it didn't kill the pacing that badly, It just depends on how you play, how you're gonna feel about that.
Crit pathing can be a rough thing, but I mean,
overall though, it's just like it's a very strong, short Xenoblade game, and with if you like Xenoblade 2 or if you like certain parts of Xenoblade 2, I think you'll just really enjoy this game because it does things because a lot of the common complaints about Xenoblade 2 are like the character designs or like it's too drawn out or a lot of other things, but this just makes it shorter, more action focused, more about the characters. Jin and Laura are a fantastic pair. It's a very sweet. It's a very sad story.
Bittersweet, or whatever.
Bittersweet.
I've been actually interested in trying it out. Just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah. No, it's great if you especially if you've already played Xenoblade 2. Please, you will like Torna better.
Maybe.
Play it.
But the music also.
The music,
battle
good lord. Oh, that battle theme is. Woo. That Gormott theme, oh my god,
Getting the vapors.
Listen to that soundtrack. And if you listen to that soundtrack and you tell me you still don't want to play Torna, you're lying to me. You are lying to me.
Or maybe you still want to play it. Those are options. But yeah, so there we go. That is the podcast. We did it. It was a little long. We're not going to do the list this week because we want to have not have to worry about having to rush anybody talking about the games that they love.
Also, I need to eat.
Everybody weeps.
Also,
They're
people are starving. They're fine. We'll be back with 2 list portions next week, probably. So it'll all equal out. With
Definitely.
No promises.
So stay subscribed.
Definitely. Shut up.
No, promise. Promise it.
No promises.
We are going to power through. We want to thank
Take my
you all
word to
for
the bank.
listening to the
Promising it
Jump
right
Up
now.
Supercast.
You have my
If you
word.
want to find us on all of the platforms of your choosing, that includes twitter.com/jumpupsupercast, twitch.tv/jumpupsupercast, instagram.com/jumpupsupercast, soundcloud.com/jumpupsupercast. They're all there. I don't have to mention the list being in the paste bin below the one with it. I did remember it.
The one time you remember.
But we want to thank you all for being with us on this first year of our podcast. Hopefully we have more to come down the line. But I think I can speak for all of us when I say we've had a good time, and we want to thank you all for being a part of that. And everyone, just have a good 2019.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.